Hi, I am Dorian Radu and I welcome you to yet another episode of the Artist Manual. Now in this episode I'll demonstrate my technique and my way of approaching portraiture, which is slightly different than the traditional drawing methods. And that is because instead of relying on exact measurements, I just like to let myself dictated by intuition. Now you might ask yourself, why do I choose to work this way, letting my intuition lead the workflow? And the reason is that I have been training and developing the traditional techniques for quite a while, and I just felt that they weren't as satisfying to my creative process as I would have wanted them to. So basically, what I did in time is that I developed a more personal way of working, and today I'm just showing you how it works. Let's go. If you decide adopting this technique, maybe the most important factor when it comes to proportions is deciding which element to start with and getting the shape right. That will dictate the whole drawing, as all subsequent features are influenced by it. In this case, I chose to start with the area surrounding the eye, also called the orbicularis oculi muscle. By getting the darkest shadow right, I gain a sense of where to place the following elements. As you can see, I will then be able to draw the eye in relation to the shape and dimensions of the cast shadow. So again, observing and getting the proportions and dimension of the first thing you draw right is absolutely crucial. So do take time for this if you need it. I always plan my drawings from dark to light. If you do it the opposite way and start with the light areas, once you add the darkest values at the end, you might find that the rest of the drawing is just too flat and looks lifeless. By starting with a darker value, you always get a hint of the contrast in the final piece since the beginning. Now that I took care of the intense shadow around the eye, I have to make sure that the mid-tones are in place. In this demo, I chose to draw on grey-toned paper. This way the base is already there and I can take advantage of that. So my responsibility here is to ensure that there is a smooth transition between highlight, midtones and shadows. So the logical step now is to get the highlights in. You still have to take angles and proportions into consideration. I don't really need that guideline sketch, as I have all aspects in mind, just taking the time and observing the picture or the model in front of me. As an example, now I'm tending to move on to the nose. Take a look at the picture. If you ignore the subtle modulations and trace two straight lines, you will notice that the nostril line is almost parallel to the eyebrow line. Once I know in which direction the darkest area in the nose is oriented, in this case the nostrils, I can then proceed and work on the shape of the nose starting from that point. The subject of this drawing is a child, so I have to be mindful of the fact that all shapes are quite round and all shadows are softened up by subtle gradients. The dark shadow underneath the nose will help me approximate the distance to the next feature I will move on to, which is the mouth. As with the nostrils, again, I am tracing an imaginary straight line exactly where the upper lip meets the lower lip. And we'll notice that, again, ignoring small modulations, the direction is almost parallel to the nostrils and the eyebrow lines. So the first thing I'm doing is drawing just that line, including the subtle natural modulations. Once that line is done, it will act as an anchor of the lower facial features. Now, I'm calling it an anchor as it dictates the whole structure and shape of the area surrounding it. From here, the whole portrait is starting to contour itself. I have fast-forwarded the process so you can see how this happens instead of cutting the video. An important effect here, which brings the drawing to life, is the multitude of highlights which can be observed in the chin area. One thing to note down is that the darkest shadows never happen exactly on the edge, as every volume is reflecting the environment. Therefore, the highlights bring some extra realism into the drawing. Once the chin and jawline is almost resolved, I feel the need to complete the set of facial features by moving onto the girl's right eye, which in the picture is placed on the left side. Here we notice that the shadows are slightly darker than on the other eye due to the fact that the sunlight is coming from the opposite direction at an approximately 60 degrees angle, I would say, judging by the cast shadows. The outline of the eye is not as clear and focused as on the other one, as it does not have the same contrast between lights and shadows. It is in the shadow, literally. I always like to emphasize the features that are closer, as the eye of the viewer has to be attracted by a certain area. If you focus on everything, the viewer will then be confused and he will not know exactly where to look first. Once the second eye is finished, I go back to the chin and jawline as I left them unfinished and can be still worked on. Using a brush, I will then blend the shadows. I use quite light brush strokes just to make sure that the graphite is getting into the creases of the paper. The finishing feature is the beautiful shiny blonde hair we can see in the guide picture. Because of the light hair color, I prefer to approach the volumes of the hair differently than I did with the face. Instead of working dark to light, I will start with a white pencil to mark the placement of the highlights. Over here I changed the hair a little due to the fact that the contrast in the hair is much more harsh than on the face and it can take your eye away from the face. Also, the hair is a bit more messy than I would like to draw it in this demo. So what I did here is, instead of getting every hair strand in, I followed the general structure and volumes to give that curly effect. However, I took the freedom to eliminate some of the rebel strands. As a result, the hair looks much smoother and softer than before, which is ideal in a child portrait. I hope you enjoyed seeing the creative process, and if you want to try it yourself, I would really recommend it. It's really a very fun technique if you want to try it, just to shake up your daily routine and to get out of the comfort zone and really train your eye this way. If you want to try it yourself, please do not forget to leave a comment down below and let me know how it goes. I'm really interested to receive feedback from different people who try it first time, because it's very different for everybody, which makes it special. Good luck.